Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on Bay Atlantic University MSM Agent E-Summit 2020 Live. Our attendees are on the process of joining in the webinar. In the meantime, on behalf of all of us in MSM and BAU, I hope you, your families and all your colleagues are all safe and well. All of us are going through this invisible pandemic and I'm sure that humanity will overcome it in the coming times ahead. Good afternoon. Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen from all parts of the world. I would like to thank you all for taking time out and being here today with us. My name is Jim George, Manager Global Marketing Office, overseeing US institutions at MSM, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. I'm delighted and pleased to introduce today's presenter, Christopher Brinker. Chris is the Director of Outreach at Bay Atlantic University. A heartily welcome, Chris, for joining this webinar. Before I hand over the mic to Chris, I'll run through the housekeeping requirements that are needed for today's presentation and the Zoom webinar platform. Chris, if you could just go to the next slide. Yeah. As a reminder, everyone is currently muted and will encourage you to type in your questions and comments throughout the presentation in the Q&A session present in the control panel. Later on in the presentation, we'll have a brief moment for Q&A, at which point you'll also be encouraged to type in your questions. So what's today's agenda for the webinar? Yes, you'll be hearing a comprehensive presentation on Bay Atlantic University by Chris. In case if you're facing any technical issues, feel free to drop in the message in the chat box. We will also be having a polling session during the webinar, so all our attendees will have to be attentive during the presentation. We'll expect your active participation during these polls. The webinar is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel afterwards. For those who have just joined in, welcome to today's webinar on Bay Atlantic University MSM Agent E-Summit 2020 Live. So without further ado, let's kickstart things off by welcoming our presenter, Chris. Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much. First of all, again, and I know that Jim had mentioned, but thank you very much for everybody that's joining. Hope everybody's doing well right now. Again, my name is Christopher Brinker. I am the Director of Outreach at Bay Atlantic University. I am the main point of contact for anyone that wants to establish a relationship with us. So as Jim had mentioned, we are Bay Atlantic University. We are located in Washington, D.C. Just some quick COVID-19 updates. I know that that's what pretty much everybody kind of wants to know right now, because that really is a big dictator as far as to when everything gets back up and running to that new normal. As far as just kind of a snapshot of where the DMV is, that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. DC only had 3 new cases as of 7/8, currently 40th as far as total cases in the United States. So DC has handled it extremely well. DC is currently in phase 2 of reopening. Businesses are only required to be at 50% capacity. And Virginia is already on phase 3 of the reopening, where the only requirement is to be 6 feet apart. Currently, most restaurants and businesses have taken their accommodations outside. They've shut down their parking and made their parking the new dining area. BAU now accepts Duolingo in light of COVID, which makes it much easier to access for students, and it's more cost effective. As far as the BAU staff did go back July 15th. I personally, as you can see, am not at BAU. I have a health item, so I'm staggering my return a little bit. But the BAU staff is back. Everything has been updated to keep social distancing 6 feet apart, and small mentor classes will be continuing or will be wrapping up in the building, so that we can ensure that all phases of social distancing are being practiced and that all the kinks are kind of ironed out. Then as far as fall 2020 and spring 2021, one of the big things that just recently happened, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, the Trump administration revoked the ruling that they were trying to institute that would ban international students from remaining in the United States if classes took online only. Obviously, as a school and as any school, trying to go back as not as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, of course, but obviously still as quickly as possible to return to that new normal. We're aiming to have a hybrid of online and physical classes. That's really based on the safety at this point. Like I said, as far as from the visa immigration standpoint, that ruling has been shot down. So students will be allowed to stay in the United States if classes need to resume online. So as far as Bay Atlantic University is concerned, there you can see located on the East Coast, Washington, D.C. One of the great things is the spacing. Within just one to two states you can see around us, you have Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, which has Philadelphia, you have Boston, North Carolina to the south, Baltimore, just in Maryland. So there's a lot of cities that are very close by. So it's excellent from a cultural standpoint. Students aren't just going to one area of the United States where they're just getting one culture here, one culture there. It's a big melting pot when you're talking about the metropolitan East Coast. As far as where exactly Bay Atlantic University is located in Washington, D.C., that kind of bullet right there, the blue and yellow dot that you see, it's actually not the White House, that's us. The White House is just one block to the left of us. We're actually not allowed on our roof because it's too close to the White House. The other good thing about the District of Columbia is that where Bay Atlantic University, our campus is an 8-story building, obviously, of course, in Washington, D.C. Green, grassy campuses you're not going to come by. So we like to say D.C. is our campus. DC is only has a 4-mile radius. You could practically run from one side to DC to the other. So as you can see here in the map, there's just an abundant amount of museums, monuments, buildings, a lot of businesses, organizations, things like that. So once the student steps out of the BAU building, they have the entire District of Columbia right there at their fingertips. As far as Bay Atlantic University is concerned, we were established in 2014. Bay Atlantic University comes from what's called BAU Global. That is one of the largest private education networks in Europe. They have opened up BAU campuses worldwide in Berlin, Istanbul, Cyprus, many other places, Mexico, China, and each university kind of embodies what that city is about for two reasons. A, it gives the degree more weight. For example, if you were to study cooking in Arizona, no offense to Arizona cooking, and you were to study cooking in Paris, your degree for cooking would hold more weight coming out of Paris just because of the city. Somebody doesn't even have to look at the university itself. Just seeing that you studied cooking in Paris, that alone gives your degree more weight. The other thing about that, of course, is job opportunities after graduation. A cook is more likely to find a job graduating in Paris because that's where all the greatest restaurants in the world are. So that's what kind of BAU in DC has embodied. When it comes to DC, the three main fields of study: business, technology, and politics. So that's why BAU only offers degrees in those three fields. Like I said, it gives your degree more weight that you studied business, politics, or technology in Washington, D.C., one of the most powerful cities in the world. And there's also more opportunities where I think 100 of the top 150, top 100 or top 150 companies have headquarters that are in D.C. or Maryland. As far as the degrees that we offer, you can see here 6 master's degrees, 6 bachelor's degrees, 5 master's degrees. Our PhD degree programs are on hold, so we are not currently offering those. I wanted to make a note. As far as our programs are concerned, our bachelor programs 1, 2, and 3 would be business, accounting, economics and finance, and business administration. 4 would be the politics side, political science and international affairs. And technology would be 5 and 6. Data science and information technology. On the master's programs, we have entrepreneurship, global affairs, and economics and finance. And then we have big data analytics and cyber security. I wanted to mention that the next two programs that we will be rolling out due to popular demand, we will be rolling out hopefully soon. This COVID has kind of put a pause on things, but we hope to have AI and blockchain within the next 2 years for a master's degree. As far as tuition is concerned, bachelor's programs at just under $16,000 per year, significantly below not only the average tuition for the United States as far as a university, but also, and as I'll go over in a moment, BAU offers significant scholarship opportunities to diminish that further. I would say about 80% of our students are on some form of scholarship. As far as our master's programs, the master's program is $18,000 per year. Like I said, the bachelor's is 4 years, master's programs are 2 years. I would say due to scholarships, on average, I would say for a bachelor's program, our students usually pay about $12,000 on average. A lot of our students get between a 5 to a 10% scholarship. For one of the scholarships we have, many receive 30 to 50%. So I would say on average, they probably end up paying between 10 and 12 per student. As far as the tuition and the living expenses, as you can see here, we allow our students to pay a monthly installment plan each semester that they're in school. So for the 2 semesters, they would pay 4 months each semester, and they wouldn't pay the summer while they're not actually attending class. So for a bachelor's program, that would come out to just under $2,000 a month. That is significantly better. I know a lot of institutions require students to pay semesters up front. So we allow for a monthly installment plan. Housing, we do have our own condo unit. It has ability to house about 200 students. The average cost for rent in DC is about $2,500 a month. And the average cost that our students pay in our housing is $950 a month. So compared relatively to DC, our housing price is less than half. Food, it's really based on the student itself. And as far as from a transportation standpoint, that actually just got cut in half. We just started something with the university and with MDOT, the public transportation service in DC, where students will only have to pay $1 a day. And this would be the master's programs. As far as tuition and living expenses, as you can see, transportation, housing, that's all the same. Only difference is really just what the monthly installment payment would be due to the slightly higher cost for the master's program. So that would come out to about $2,250 a month while they're in each semester.
So this is our first poll time. So I hope, I request all of your active participation in the poll. So I'm launching the poll. So I hope all of you would be able to see the questions. So the first question I would like to request all of our attendees to answer is, in which year was Bay Atlantic University established? As Chris had mentioned, it is a new generation university. So was it established in the year 1984? Or was it established in the year 1994? Or was it established in the year 2004? Or was it established in the year 2014? Yeah, so I see a few of them have started answering it. So I'd request your active participation in this. The second question is, how many undergraduate programs does Bay Atlantic University offer? So as Chris had mentioned, it is mainly about politics. It's about business. It's about technology. So name how many programs are there for the undergraduate offer. And the third question is, how much is the yearly tuition fee for an undergraduate program in BAU? So as Chris mentioned, it is very economical. Is it $15,900 US, or is it $17,400? Or is it $20,950 per year? Or is it $22,250 per year? So I'll wait for another 10 seconds just for all of our attendees' active participation, and we will look into the results. once we reach about 5 to 10 more minutes. So would request your active participation, and I'm going to end the polls and I'll just tell out the results. Yeah, so I'm just sharing the results. I hope all of our attendees are able to see it. I apologize for people who are not able to submit it. There may be some technical error that must have caused. So the first one is, in which year was Bay Atlantic University established? And we've got 44% of them telling the right answer, and that's 2014. It's a new generation university. We have 44% of them telling the right answer that there are 6 undergraduate programs that Bay Atlantic University offers. And then we've got 78% of them telling the right answer that the annual tuition fee for the undergraduate program at Bay Atlantic University is $15,900. So Chris, over to you.
Thank you. All right. So as far as from an admissions standpoint, right now we actually just recently slightly lowered our English proficiency requirements in order to match those of some of our competitors. Traditionally, we've had a significantly higher English proficiency requirement. So like I said, we've recently just lowered that to pretty much match a lot of the competitors in order to make us a little bit more kind of available as far as a lot of students currently. As you can see here, and my next slide will have all of our English proficiency requirements. We also require 2 letters of recommendation, 1 personal essay, as well as the application form, which the link can be found here. From a graduate standpoint, really the only differences would be a course-by-course evaluation would be required in order to confirm that the amount of credits received for a bachelor's degree translates. They do have the ability, if for one reason or another it's slightly below what the amount of credits needed to finish their credits at BAU, get that undergraduate degree and then move over to the master's side. Really, like I said, everything else pretty much the same there, other than the English proficiency requirements slightly higher. And like I said, I'll go over that full scope in a moment. We have 2 scholarship opportunities. First would be the merit-based scholarship. Now, BAU does not require the SATs. We do not require the GMATs. We do not require the GREs. We understand that it's very difficult for students outside of the United States to find these testing facilities and pay for them. And a lot of them, and the SATs in general, their wording tries to confuse American students that speak perfect English, let alone students that are still learning. So we don't require them for admission, but we do offer a scholarship. So as you can see here in the table, a student can elect to take the SATs, the GMAT, or the GRE, and based on their score, get a certain scholarship amount. Before going over the second scholarship, I wanted to note here at the bottom, only a limited number of scholarships are offered each year. And so the earlier a student applies, the more likely a student is to get the scholarship. More likely the student for my next scholarship is likely to get a higher amount. Also, I wanted to note that these scholarships cannot be combined. A student cannot take the SATs, get a percentage, and then get the Hussein Yücel scholarship. It's the highest of either or. So if a student scores 1100 on the SATs, but then gets a 50% scholarship through Hussein Yücel scholarship, the student would get a 50% scholarship, as the 50% is higher than the 25. This is the full scope of the English, but I also did want to mention that the Hussein Yücel scholarship is extremely abundant. We've given out roughly $5.5 million in scholarship money over the last 3 years just through the Hussein Yücel scholarship. This is the reason why, as I had mentioned, the majority of our students are on some form of scholarship. A lot of the students that apply right at the beginning of the admissions process typically get between 30 to 50%. A lot of the students that apply right before the deadline will usually get between 5 and 15%. Obviously, it's also dependent upon the student's overall performance, scholarships, things like that, I'm sorry, their essay, things like that. But A lot of it, like I said, boils down to there's more money in the scholarship at the beginning than right at the end. So students are more likely to get it and more likely to get more the earlier they apply. As far as our English proficiency requirements, this is the full scope. For an IELTS, we require a 5.5 for bachelor's programs. Duolingo now is 75, TOEFL 70, TOEIC 650. We have a BAU placement test, which we are about to issue. Duolingo's really helped this because that just makes it a lot easier now to take it online. But eventually we will be sending out our own placement test so that students don't even have to pay the $50 for Duolingo. The agent can just administer that. From a graduate program, as you can see, slightly higher. IELTS is a 6.0, Duolingo is a 90, TOEFL is an 80, TOEIC is a 700. It is important to note that students do not necessarily meet that minimum requirement. First and foremost, BAU is very acceptable and open to working with other students. Just because a student scores a 5.0 on the IELTS does not mean that we won't give the student a second look. So I would never discourage a student from applying. And if that's the case, because I do understand that we have a $40 application fee, that's really just to ensure that we are siphoning through our serious applicants. But if a student, of course, doesn't want to pay the $40 because their English proficiency score is below the minimum requirement, please email me individually and I can get an answer on that student without that student having to apply right away, so that I can get a yes or a no. But like I said, we're willing to work. As far as the other option there, if the student is just below, we do have Mentor College, which is an English proficiency school on campus. It's just below $400 a month. And this is a great way for students to find out whether they love BAU and whether they love DC prior to fully committing to BAU. You know, we all understand that committing 4 years to a university in a completely different country and a completely different city, most likely one that you've never been to before, is a very tall order. That's a big ask. And so this is a perfect way for students to spend between 1 to 4 months in DC, absorb the culture, make sure they love DC, make sure they love BAU before committing to those 4 years. We do have rolling applications, so we're always accepting applications, whether it be for spring or fall. However, as far as deadlines are concerned, we're looking at December 1st and August 1st. Especially because of COVID, I wanted to mention that, as with every university in the world, admissions is down, of course, obviously with international travel being paused. So we do have the ability where we can most likely bend those deadlines by a week, maybe 2, if need be. It's more so for the visa process. But like I said, we can rush things because there's not as much of a backlog. As far as the admissions process, and we'll make sure to send out this so that everybody has a copy of the process. But first, of course, is the application form, required documentation. We have our own agency portal for each agent where we have downloaded all of our marketing materials. So no agent ever has to go to us and wait for us. Not that it takes us long to respond at all, but you have the portal where you can just go online, pull any marketing material that you need. You can also track any of the applications and their status right there, so you can see everything flowing, and the admissions officer that's been assigned to you and your student. So that's a point of contact for required documents, step 2. Also for step 3 being the I-20 and the F1 visa process, and then of course onto the acceptance letter. Just some background about DC itself, obviously, of course, and this went for me when I was looking at colleges, and most likely the majority of the other students out there. It's not just about the university; it's about where the university is located. A big portion of the college life is absorbing the area and absorbing the culture. As far as DC itself, it's number 5 for best city for young professionals. That's excellent when you're talking about students coming out of college, who literally are the young professionals. Number 1, best economy in America among all cities. As I mentioned, if you want to study business, number 1, best economy in one of the most, like I said, powerful cities in the world. And then number 2 among fitness, that plays into number 4 as far as parks are concerned. Even though DC is small, it's an extremely green area. And then it's number 7 in overall safest cities in the world. I know one concern when you're speaking about the United States, especially in light of recent events, although that has stabilized. But the good thing about DC is that being the fact that I would say 80 to 90% of the District of Columbia is government-owned property, any corner you turn, there are police officers, there are Secret Service everywhere. Like I said, and then as far as the city itself, number 4 most influential cities in the world. As far as BAU by the numbers, we have a graduation rate of 90%. That's something that we feel strongly about. I would say it's because of our 10-to-1 student-teacher ratio, and just because of the small school itself, being the fact that we have about 300 students, that allows us to work with students more closely, make sure that they're getting the attention they need. We have a 76% employment rate coming out of the school and a 75% retention rate, showing that students do enjoy BAU once they come here. And then even though we only have 160 plus graduates, being the fact that we've only been graduating students for the last 2 to 3 years, as the school was established in 2014, we do have an alumni network of over 33,000. Any student that graduates from BAU joins the BAU Global Network for alumni. And so wherever they go in the world, you've got an alumni network of 33,000 strong that have graduated from campuses all over the world. Additional ways that we stand out, college, what really separates you in a world today where every single business gets 30,000 resumes per job, and everybody, everybody seems to graduate from the same university, study the same majors. So it's really those extracurriculars that put you over the edge when you're looking for a job out of college. It's really about work ethic in today's society. A lot of kids don't have it. A lot of adults don't have it. And so, like I said, it comes down to work ethic and how much the student is willing to do while in school. I can tell you that from personal experience. That's one of the things that stood out for myself personally when I was originally venturing out in the business world. And so that's one of the things that BAU excels at. We have a think tank called GPI, which is a panelist that includes and brings in former ambassadors, CEOs, political campaign managers, military personnel, and I would say between once every 1 to 2 weeks, we have panel discussions that talk about global issues in which students are invited to network with these panelists. We have Q&A sessions, so that's one way for the students to network as well. The faculty in and of itself have come from DC institutions like the U.S. Department of Transportation, USAID, Kodak, IMF, the World Bank, just to name a few. So that just shows that not only can these students establish connections with the network of individuals our faculty are bringing in for these GPI panels, but the faculty themselves can also offer networking opportunities. In addition to internship and work opportunities, we have monthly newsletters coming from our career and research department, as well as local career fairs that we offer. We give information about local career fairs, and we host career fairs as well. We also email out local job opportunities to international students, host mock interviews and review their resumes, host business seminars. We also do have a program called ICOA that we've partnered with. It's a 10-week program that teaches students the ins and outs of the American job market and the visa process, the work visa process, things like that. So that really coaches the students and also gives them real-time networking individuals as well that they can reach out and go through. BAU also offers CPT and OPT. I believe the tech programs, OPT can be given for 2 years after graduation. The other programs, just 1 year after graduation. For CPT, we currently have recently hired 6 on-campus employees in the marketing department alone, among other departments, where we have students that are working currently part-time during the school year and full-time in the summer. This is a co-op program that we're starting in the next 1 to 2 years. Obviously, COVID as well has kind of put us slow on that, so more to come later. BAU also offers studying abroad opportunities. As I mentioned, we have campuses in Berlin, Batumi, Georgia, Istanbul, Cyprus. We also just recently opened up in England, Plymouth to be exact. And then as you can see here, we also have partnerships with universities in Mexico, Vietnam, Ukraine, and China. We do not offer an additional cost needed in order to study abroad. I did want to note, though, that because universities are typically specialized, prior to planning out where you're studying abroad, just make sure that the degrees line up. For example, Berlin only offers programs in business, architecture, and engineering. DC only offers business, politics, and technology. Therefore, you would either have to study abroad within your first 2 years to do core courses, or if you're business, then you could do your last 2 years there because those programs line up.
So this is our second poll time. So I'd request all our attendees their active participation. I'm going to launch the poll. So I hope everyone is able to view the polls. So the first question is rate the audio and video quality for this webinar. This is just to ensure that our technical parameters are all reaching out in the best way. You're able to hear us and see us properly, and also see the presentation. So kindly put in your review for the same. The second question is, what is the IELTS requirement for undergraduate students at Bay Atlantic University? So did Chris mention it's a 5.0 overall that is needed? Or did he mention that it has been revised to a particular amount, which is a 5.5? Or is it an overall 6.0? Or is it an overall 6.5 for the undergraduate programs? And the final question is, what is the student-teacher faculty ratio at student-to-teacher ratio at Bay Atlantic University? So is it 10 students to 1 teacher ratio? Or is it 15 students to 1 teacher ratio? Or is it an 18:1 student to teacher ratio? Or did he mention 20 is 1, 20 students to 1 teacher ratio? So I would request all of your active participations for this. I'll just wait for another 5 seconds so that people can vote in. I hope this time everyone is able to put their votes and select their whichever is their they think is the appropriate answer. So yeah, so we've nearly reached about 50% of the vote share. So I'm just ending the poll and just look into the results. I've shared the polls with you. I hope everyone is able to view the polls. So we can see that 70% of them have informed that the audio and video quality is excellent. So that's nice to hear that everyone is able to view and see us properly. 70% of them have given the right answer that it's been revised. The IELTS requirement for the undergraduate students is revised to a 5.5 overall score. And for the graduate, it's reduced to 6.0. And the student faculty ratio, unfortunately, 50% of them have told wrong answer. It is 10:1. So it is the student to teacher ratio is comparatively very less. And we've got 30% who have answered the right answer. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you. I'm glad nobody said poor for the audio and video quality. I believe last week everybody said excellent. Only one person said poor. So I'm pretty sure if you're the one person that said it, it's probably you. So why study at BAU? These are, of course, as I mentioned, I've kind of gone over, touched upon a lot of these, but just to kind of rehash some of them, BAU does work on establishing that strong relationship with the professors and the classmates. We also just recently started our first soccer team. We actually have a practice tonight. So that's a great way that we're working on getting the students involved with each other. Obviously, of course, college sports in America is a very, very big thing. So we're working on expanding that. And like I said, that also allows the students to mingle with each other at these games and discuss and talk amongst themselves as well. Being that the class size ranges from 10 to 20 students, as I mentioned, on average, our class size, or at least the student-teacher ratio, is 10 to 1. So that allows us to get more involved with each student. As far as really the makeup of Bay Atlantic University, we currently represent about 31 different countries. So having such a diverse crowd, it not only allows you to absorb the culture at Bay Atlantic University, but given that 85% of our students are international students, it gives them the ability to absorb cultures from all over the world. One of the things that we actually do each year is for Thanksgiving, we host a potluck where everybody brings a dish from their home country, and we just kind of have a free-for-all there. So not gonna lie, that's my favorite night. We do also, as far as I mentioned, BAU is an 8-story building right next to the White House. We do have a student union for students to hang out, talks amongst themselves. Actually, the other side of the student union, we have a stage where students put on plays, play music. We have a big projector where they can watch movies, play video games. We also have a library for the students, cybersecurity lab. We just purchased a deli next door for the students. As you can see right there, that's the other side of the student union. We also have a podcast booth. So that is another thing that is just an additional resume builder. Students can publish podcasts with their professors. That not only allows them to network better with their professors, but also allows them to publish things, which strengthens the resume.
Yeah. So thank you, Chris, for this wonderful presentation. All our attendees must have gathered maximum information from all the details that you have briefed about Bay Atlantic University. We already have a number of really interesting questions that we hope to get to touch on at least a little bit. The first one is about the global network. So can you just give a small brief on, you had mentioned about the countries, and is there options that students can transfer from one country to the other? They want to know a little more, get a little more insight on that global operations.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, Bay Atlantic University, the initial campus is in Istanbul. That is a 30,000 student campus right on the water that offers essentially every type of degree known to man. Cyprus is a little bit more core courses. And Batumi, Georgia, to be honest with you, I'm not certain the degrees that they offer. As I mentioned, Berlin is business, architecture and engineering, DC being business, politics, technology. And we also have those partnerships with Mexico, Vietnam, Ukraine, and China. We do not require additional cost or payment. The only difference is the cost of living, although I can tell you for a fact anywhere in the world is cheaper than DC, except for our housing cost, which is much lower. As far as the ability to do that, I believe I'd mentioned earlier, it really boils down to what you're taking and how those line up. For example, because DC offers business, technology, and politics, and Berlin offers business, architecture, and engineering, if you were to take business, you could do whenever you want, go to Berlin because they offer business classes. But if you take technology or politics at DC, you would have to go to Berlin within the first 2 years so that you could take your core courses, and you wouldn't be able to go there in your 3rd or 4th year because they don't have tech or politics courses. So You do have the ability, as far as it's really just when you can study abroad would be dependent on where you want to go. Whether they have your degree and you can do it anytime, or they don't have your degree and you'd have to study abroad within your first 2 years.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chris, for that brief elaboration of the global network. The second one is about the housing. So can you just give a little more brief on what are the facilities that are available for the housing, and a little on the transportation, on how students usually transport, and a little brief on that?
Absolutely. And if I can just screen share, I can show you just some pictures of the dorms itself. But as far as, while I'm pulling that up, just some background on that. So our dormitories, like I said, they house about 200 students. Currently, we have about 100 students in there. So we have plenty as far as space. The dorms themselves are roughly 15 minutes from the campus. We have a bus that goes to and from the campus every day, twice a day, based on when, excuse me, based on when. So I should be screen sharing right now. So this is what as you can see right here, this is what the housing is. I can send a link of Island Condos itself. You can see it right here. So students can get either a single all the way up to a quad. The cost depends on how many students are living in there. So for example, if they have 3 roommates, the cost would be about $800 a month. If they don't have any roommates and it's a single, the cost is about $1,200 a month. Like I said, it's located right next to Catholic University, which is about 15 minutes away. Island Condos has their own security force that is 24/7 in the condo. Plus, like I said, it's next to Catholic University, which has their own security guards patrolling the area itself. And then, like I said, we have a bus that goes there twice a day based on when the classes are. And then, as you can see here on the right, this is kind of every single building has a rooftop view of all of DC. It's a beautiful view, and all the rooms are pre-furnished as well. And each room, I would say, I think it's about 3 rooms share a common kitchen that's fully furnished as well.
Sure. Thank you so much for that elaborated and the screen shared images that gives a complete idea of the housing proposal. The next one is, the next question is there any age limit restrictions, that is age restrictions for students who would like to pursue a career at the Atlantic University in their for any graduate program or for an undergraduate program?
No, we do not. We do not have any requirements at all as far as the age.
Yeah, so it's basically that the age doesn't matter, but whatever is the gap, whatever is the lagging that comes, it has to be justified either with a job or something that can be justified that these many years a student or the prospect applicant was engaged in some other activities which will be productive for the admissions. Now, coming to the next question is that what would be the possibilities of starting the PhD program, and when do you expect something to roll in for the Atlantic University?
So originally we actually had those programs up and running, and it was really just by popular demand that they slowed down a little bit. So it's really just based on the demand itself and the current climate. Right now with COVID, there's a lot of other things that obviously, of course, are at the forefront of everybody's mind. So I would say we're probably looking to have those programs back in about 2 years. The next year, we'll probably be recovering from COVID, getting everything back to the new normal. And then the year after that, it would probably take to get the PhD courses marketed, popular, and back up and running.
Thank you. The next one is related to the placement. They want to know what is the, if a student studies a Master of Science in Big Data Analytics or Cybersecurity, what is the placement rate that students get? Like if international students are there, does all the 10 get placed before while completing their program or just after their program?
So, like I said, as far as our employment rate after school is 76%. So 3 out of 4 students are getting jobs coming out within the first 6 months. I also wanted to note that that number is also affected by a lot of our students that go internationally, and then we lose that data. Obviously, of course, not every college student once graduating maintains constant communication. So a lot of that employment rate also is students going abroad and then losing connection with us. But as far as the data that we do have, at the very least, 3 out of 4 students in the United States are getting jobs coming out of school.
Sure. Thank you so much. The next one is related to the Master of Business Administration. So you had mentioned the 3 concentrations, that's entrepreneurship, global affairs, economics, and finance. So what are the prospect jobs that usually international students get, that is during their OPT time? What type of jobs do they get after completing their MBA?
So as far as after completion, it really, I mean, obviously, of course, it ranges. One of the good things that BAU does, however, is that we focus a lot of our attention on career research and development. For example, I went to the University of Maryland. Obviously, of course, I love the University of Maryland, College Park, but it's so big that I graduated with an accounting degree and I've never been an accountant because I just didn't know what accountants do. I knew how to do an accountant's job, but I didn't know, what they do on a daily basis. I found out I hated the job after school. And so there's really not enough job preparation that students go through. They give you all the tests and the grades that say now you can technically do a job, but you learn 90% of your job actually on the job. And so that's what students are finding out. So obviously, of course, as far as where students go, that ranges a lot based on what the student wants to do, especially in DC. They have a wide array of opportunities there. But we do really get, for example, there's a page online that you can go to that has each degree that we offer, and it has I think it's the 10 most popular jobs for each of those degrees. So students can research based on this degree. These are the jobs that I can start looking for. We offer data as far as how many jobs are open each year, so they can track the availability and the need of those jobs. We have salary data. So we really encourage our students to actually research the career they want to do, not just learn the degree that they eventually want to do, so that they have an exact idea of what to do when they come out.
Sure. Thank you so much for that brief description. The next one is, what is the teaching methodology? That is basically how a student will transform from before entering into BAU and after entering into BAU. What is that particular spark that they will attain from completing an undergraduate or a graduate program from BAU?
So I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. What?
Yeah. Basically, the teaching methodology means how different it is. Like, is it experiential teaching? Does faculties from outside come? So, just a little bit about the teaching quality.
Oh, okay. So as I mentioned, I mean, as far as our faculty in and of itself, our faculty come from U.S. Department of Transportation, USAID, Kodak, IMF, the World Bank, among many other organizations. So they not only teach what's in the book, which we also have electronic books, by the way, and an electronic library. We do have a physical library, but we also have an electronic library, which cuts costs for students. But as you can see here, each faculty also draws and teaches from their own experiences of situations that they've come across in their jobs. And then, as I mentioned, not only does the faculty offer that through each class, but then GPI holds their panel discussions where they bring in outside ambassadors, CEOs, political campaign managers. So it's both. Students are able to network and learn from the faculty themselves' own experience. And then in addition to that, once a week, they're bringing outsiders in where they can draw from those experiences and network through them as well.
Sure. Thank you so much for that brief. The next one is in case, and this would be our final question. So is English as a language exempted if, for example, countries like Nigeria, or we've got Ghana or Philippines that have their English as their first language? So if they're studying that means that particular program, whichever they last did in English as their first language, is the English test waived off for these students? Could you just give a small brief on that?
Yes, so and I actually do need to add something in here because that's a popular question. I need to add something in there that makes a note to that. Short answer to a short answer to a short question. Students do not need to do those English proficiency requirements. The only thing that we do need is we just need that to be noted on a student's transcript. So if the student studies outside of the United States, but the school is taught in English only. Obviously, of course, we wouldn't need them to take an English proficiency test. Each school is very open to just putting a note on there that said our courses were taught in English, and that lets us know that the student learned in English. So that's all they need to do is just get a note on the transcript, or a note, just really a note from the university that says courses were taught in English.
Sure. So really great points, Chris, and thank you for this insightful presentation that you had given. Now, to the attendees, we were able to address few of your questions, but we have all the questions that you have posted, logged in, and we will be responding to those unanswered questions. Our global admissions executive contact details will be shared in the Q&A session, and would request all of you to touch base with her for all the queries, any applications, or any relevant resources that you would require with regards to Bay Atlantic University. So Chris, would request your closing lines before we end the webinar.
So I just wanted to again thank everybody for taking the time to tune in. I apologize if I tend to talk a little fast sometimes, so I do apologize if I went a little quick there at any point. But if anybody has absolutely any questions that we did not touch upon, please reach out to me. And again, I'm the main point of contact. BAU right now, like I said, one of our keys is flexibility, accessibility for all. So whether it be the student's background or the student's situation, we're flexible and accessible. So please reach out because really we're ready to open up this new generation university, especially in a United States right now that is fighting for equality for all. This is a great time for Bay Atlantic University with the incredibly low tuition that we offer, what we have at our available fingertips here is a great tool to just spread that higher education through everybody. So if anybody wants to establish a working and lasting relationship, please reach out to me. We're on top of it.
Yeah, sure. In fact, we'll find a lot of partners who will be interested to partner with Bay Atlantic University because of the ease of the admission process, the fees flexibility, and the rate at which you're offering such extremely in-demand programs. So hoping that we'll be partnering with a lot of our partners who have joined in this webinar. So thanks, Chris, for this wonderful presentation. So before we sign off, we at MSM are happy to see the success of the introduction of MSM Live Agent eSummit 2020, and would request all of you to follow us on our Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube platforms to stay updated on our upcoming events. You can also visit our recently updated website, www.msquaremedia.com, to get further updates. So thank you for participating in this in today's webinar. We hope to see you again next time. So stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.